you have to follow within certain criteria for the pump.
I think it's recording because I see the red light now. I see a red light now in the front.
But I kind of got off of the tangent. The point I wanted to make was weight loss for us made a tremendous difference on so many levels beyond my diabetes.
Exercise too. The more you exercise, it doesn't show up right away on your numbers, but will show up on your numbers. Exercising, just walking. You don't have to join a club or nothing. Just walk, go on a walk. I got a treadmill for free, and I use the treadmill. I mean, you got to do something to be able to do it. And then if you are low income, YMCA will go with sliding scale. And if you can't afford it, all you have to do is prove what your income is, and they'll do a sliding scale on you too. And the clinic around here that she's talking about, it's in Clinton. There's one in Clinton. The community health clinic, it's out of Middletown, I think is their main branch, but they have an office in Clinton, next to True Value in Clinton. So there's avenues. I mean, I don't want you guys to ever think that because you have diabetes you can't afford your medication or your doctors or whatever. There are ways of going around, and you might have to go into like a low-income clinic or something like that. But to get your care that you need, that down the road you're not going to lose your eyes or your leg or anything like that. You know, don't be like me, and I am literally holding on to my right leg.
And
so you don't want to do that.
If you have one amputation as a diabetic, statistically, your chances of another are literally 50-50.
I
Yep.
think the problem with diabetes, at least for folks with type 2, is the public thinks that it's not, they don't think it's serious, if you have type 2. And the public doesn't take diabetes seriously because folks with diabetes, whether you're on insulin or not, you don't look sick. Like, someone has cancer, you know, and you know that person is ill. But for the most part, people with diabetes look good. And a lot of people think that folks with type 2 brought it on themselves.
Oh, shucks, now she's embarrassing.
No, but I'm just saying, you know. So,
in some ways you do bring it on yourself.
well,
I did.
yeah.
Just by my lifestyle.
Right,
40
right.
years, I bought it
But
on
not
myself.
everybody, you know, and it's just this general thing, you know, and it's really out of control. Because down the truth for me, type 2, you know,
We're
they're very
not
open
the tip of the spear, but we're the head of the tsunami of diabetes.
But today's technology for kids getting diabetes too, I think too, my personal opinion is the technology of testing now, it's been so much, okay, over the years. We're talking about back in the 70s and the 60s, you had to urinate on a stick to get your sugar number. Back in the 50s, you would actually literally have to taste your urine to find out what your sugar is. If you have high sugar, you go to the bathroom, you smell a foul smell or a sweet smell, you have sugar running into your urine. And that's how they tested your sugar. You didn't poke yourself. That didn't come until into the 80s. I mean, technology today is like so far advanced. Because I think I had diabetes since I was a kid. I used to know where the bathrooms were all at all places. I drank a gallon of water and still thirsty afterwards. I couldn't go through a night's sleep without going to the bathroom at least 3 or 4 times. Matter of fact, I moved my bedroom to the bathroom, near the bathroom. But the other thing is with me, my father was diagnosed in '95 for type 2 diabetes, and I was diagnosed in '96. We did not know it was a family secret. My father's mother had diabetes and never told nobody. Type 1 diabetes, and all her siblings all had diabetes, and nothing was said until my dad got diabetes, and they're like, "Oh yeah, I have type 1 diabetes." What, Graham? Yeah, because it was like a family secret. It was never talked about. So if we knew about that, I'm sure my doctor would say, "Well, hold on here, you might have diabetes. Let's check for diabetes and stuff like that." So, you know, I'm very out of my diabetes. Everyone around me knows I have diabetes, and I'm not ashamed about my diabetes. It's who I am. And it's a chronic illness that I will always will have. Always will have. I want to switch it over to Kathleen from the Visiting Nurses, Vna Community Healthcare, right? Here in Guilford. She's going to talk for a while. I want to move the microphone so she can...
I have a pretty loud voice.
That's okay. This is for recording. This is for the recording part of it. And she's going to also give you a time where you guys can ask her questions and everything at the end. So go ahead, Kathleen.
Okay. Hi, everybody. I'm Kathleen Offner from Vna Community Healthcare, and our main office is right across the street here in Guilford. We cover the shoreline in the greater New Haven area. We also have an office in Hamden. And we're a not-for-profit visiting nurse association. And a lot of people are confused because there's a lot of different VNAs, and we actually are all separate companies. We're not all the same company. So we're VNA Community Healthcare. And we do cover the shoreline and the greater New Haven area. We're not-for-profit, and that means that a lot of our services are covered by insurances, but if we have any profits, we turn it around and put it back in the community. So we do programs like this for free. We have Well Right Now clinics that are nurse clinics that if you have some health goals that you want to work on, you can come to the clinics and we can work with you with those. And we have 30 clinics a month and they're free, and they're all around the shoreline in the greater New Haven area. We also will do your blood pressure there. If it's appropriate, we might check your blood sugar and just work with you on health goals that you have. We also have a caregiver support group network that we have for those people that are caring for people with illnesses, just to give them some support. We do a lot of health and wellness programs, and we have some classes right over here on Guilford. Those usually have some fee, but it's a very reasonable discounted fee. I did give you some handouts. There's the health and wellness programs listed there. There's all the services that we provide. We do home care from birth up to over 100 years old for a variety of problems that people might need a nurse for. On the back, you'll see Lifetime Care at Home, and that's actually one of our sister companies that is a private pay. But in the VNA side, that's usually covered by insurances. I also gave you the VNA helpline. This is a number that you can call Monday through Friday for any questions that you may have. You want to speak to a nurse, or if you're running into a problem with the system, we have people that can help you, like getting payment, or maybe you need to know where to go to get health care because you don't have insurance. We do have the helpline. That's open Monday through Friday from about 8:30 to 5 o'clock. I also gave you the handout about the caregiver support group too. So we're just going to talk very briefly. I know it seems like from when John was talking to you, it's a very mixed groups. Everybody's at a different level. Some people are on insulin, some people are new to diabetes. So this is just really just a very basic overview. In fact, I think a lot of you might already know some of this information, but we'll go over it. Okay, so just basically I was going to talk to you quickly about your blood sugars now. And the trend now really is to look at, which I think is a great thing, but the trend now is really to look at the individual. So the blood sugar rate now is very kind of basic because they are really looking at the individual to see what type of diabetes you've had, how long you've had diabetes, how good at control you've been before. So the doctor might think, maybe he'll say, 140 is okay for you, or he'll want you to be closer to the 90 side. So that's something to work with your doctor about too, but these are just some general guidelines. Another thing they're really looking at, if you have other problems, if you already have heart disease, if you already have some problems with your kidneys, these numbers might change. So it's just very individualized. That's the trend that's starting to be. It looks like your nurse practitioner is right on that, and that's great. The nurse practitioner that you go to. Again, before meals, you want your blood sugar to be, again, 90 to 130. I should say that they just did some studies and they found out that if you get your fasting blood sugars, that first one in the morning, if your fasting blood sugars are under control, in general, you'll have better blood sugar control throughout the day. And that has to do with your liver and how the liver metabolizes the sugar. So if you can get those morning blood sugars under control and be in a good range, and then likely it's easier for you to control your blood sugars the rest of the day also. These are for 4 meals. This is 2 hours after a meal. You want it to be less than 180. And then at bedtime, again, 90 to 130. They also found out that high blood sugars actually, when the metabolism in the skeletal muscle impairs your insulin action. So I think that's going to have something why exercise helps you too. So your batting average for your A1C is less than 7. Again, that's going to be very individualized. If you start, somebody here said, where were you at 10? Did you say 10? You know, so your goal at first is not going to be a 7. You're just going to want to get it down a little bit at a time. But you did great. That was great. You did great with that. So a good thing too, another thing when you go to the doctor, there's 3 you want to remember the ABCs when you go to the doctor. So you want to know what your A1C is. It's important to know that. What your blood pressure is. Your doctor should be checking your blood sugar every time you go, and then what your cholesterol is too. Okay, and what your doctor wants your target numbers to be. And ask them if they're going to check your feet. The doctor should check your feet every time you go, and also have an eye exam. Should be once a year, unless they want you to get every 6 months.
And the best way to encourage your doctor to check your feet is take off your shoes and socks.
Good, great
Get in there and
suggestion.
take
Great
them off.
suggestion. Yeah.
Because otherwise you'll poke around to check for swelling in your ankles. You
Never-
want him to look at your toes.
Right. Exactly. Good suggestion. Okay, then here's just checking your heart. You want your blood pressure to be about 130 over 80, 120 over 80. That's a target or less. You want to have your kidney function checked at least once a year. You should have your eyes checked at least once a year. And take care of your teeth, too. A lot of people forget about your teeth. Teeth are really important to your health. You know, sometimes you can actually get some heart problems because your teeth are having problems with your teeth. If you get an infection, gingivitis, a gum infection, that can impair your blood sugar. So you really want to take good care of your teeth. Now, one thing that we've been starting to do with people is work what we call in the zones. Has anybody heard of zones? So we use this not only with diabetes, but with heart disease. And when we see people at home, we actually usually give them these charts. There's 3 zones. So there's the green zone, the yellow zone, and the red zone. So the green zone is the good zone to be in. It's like green light, go, everything's good. So usually with diabetes, we look at that your fasting blood sugars are usually under 130. So if you have occasionally have one, you know, you went to a party the night before, you know you overate a little bit, then you actually expect your blood sugar to be a little bit high. So it's usually under 130. Your 2 hours are usually after eating 180, and your goal for your A1C is 7. So that means you're feeling good, your blood sugar's under control, you're taking your medications, you're following healthy lifestyle habits between diet and exercise, and that you're seeing your doctor on a regular basis. Now, if you're in the yellow zone, then that means that your A1C is between 7 and 9. Your fasting sugars are sometimes over 130. Your random testing might be 200. And then and then on the opposite end, you may frequently be having low blood sugars, under 70. So again, high blood sugars mean you're out of control, but a lot of low blood sugars can mean you're out of control too, and something needs to be changed. So that's what your blood sugars indicate. You need an adjustment in your medications. You need to look at, do you need to improve your eating habits? Do you need to increase your exercise, your activity level, and that you should be talking frequently to your nurse practitioner or doctor about where your blood sugars are. Then the last zone is the red zone. So your hemoglobin A1C is over 9. Your fasting blood sugars are often over 130. You're getting blood sugars at 250 or higher. And you have frequent low blood sugars of under 70, frequently. So the red zone means that you really need to be evaluated by your physician, and you need to call them right away. So we have the people use these zones. You know, sometimes people hang them on the refrigerator, and they mark them down and look every day where they need to be. You can actually find these zones on the internet. Sometimes some of the numbers might be just slightly different, but you can find them on the internet. I did want to, I think John mentioned, but you know, when you do look at the internet, just make sure you're looking at a good site. I mean, I can't believe that amount of misinformation on the internet, and people, you know, I mean, you don't know. They say they're a doctor, and then you're saying, this person cannot be a doctor, but the information they're giving people. So be really careful. You know, even WebMD, I'm kind of iffy about sometimes on WebMD. Wikipedia, you know, anybody can write Wikipedia. I mean, I could go in there and write a little article on Wikipedia and get it posted. So Wikipedia, look at like, you know, the Mayo Clinic, the American Diabetic Association, definitely, their website is great. So look at those kind of sites. I'm going to throw one little thing about diet. I love this plate planner. Has anybody heard of this? Like, that's just and I brought a little plate here so you can actually see that, you know, here's the average size plate. This is just a great, easy ballpark. You don't want to, you know, you don't want to measure, you don't want to weigh, you don't want to count your carbs too much, you know. I think you're going to talk a little bit about that, though. And it's just a great way to kind of get a ballpark figure, to get a balance, and you're not going to eat too much of anything. So you got your vegetables. Half your plate is vegetables. That doesn't include potatoes or starchy vegetable corns. This is your broccoli, your salad, your lettuce, your carrots, things like that. Then you have your lean protein down here, and then your little bit of starch right here. Okay. And that's what that plate is. I found that on the internet too, so that's a good one. So one thing I wanted to talk to you about is making a goal. They found that people that have health goals, or any kind of goals, who think about the goals they have, actually in the long term do better. So if you could think about some goals you wanted to achieve and start working on them, that really helps your health. So you want something desirable. You want something that's realistic, and that's the most important part. And then you want something specific. So say you want to start exercising more, because we had talked about that exercise really does improve your sugar level. So what are you going to do? I will walk. Well, so that's usually people make, you know, we just had New Year's and everybody makes New Year's resolutions. You're like, I'm going to walk more. Well, what does that mean? How are you going to do that? That's what you need to think of, specifically how you're going to do that. And you want to start off slow. You want to do a goal. So you don't want to say, I'm going to go to the gym 7 days a week and stay there for an hour and a half every day. Most likely, you're not going to make it. Something's going to come up and you're not going to get there.
Unless you own the gym.
Unless you own the gym. Of course, then you're there every day. But, so you want to do something that's realistic. So say, I'm going to go to the gym twice this week and I'm going to stay there for half an hour, because you know what your schedule's like. So that's something that would be a realistic goal for you to meet. Like this says, I'm going to walk for 20 minutes, and then when are you exactly going to do it? Plan. So I'm going to the gym twice a week. I'm going to go for half an hour. Where does that fit into my schedule? Well, Monday I can go at 6 p.m., and Thursday I can go, you know, I have some time in the morning, I'll go at 10 in the morning, and actually write that down. I did bring you out a handout, just to get you started on your goals if you wanted to. You can see your long-term goal is, your short-term. And again, the thing that you want to do is build on these goals gradually as you did them. So you met one goal, and then you're feeling good with that, and then you're going to add something else to that. So does anybody have any questions about the goals? One thing I wanted to ask you is, what do you think is your biggest challenge as a diabetic? What's the biggest challenge that you have?
Keeping eating under control.
Keeping eating, like not eating too much, of course you're keeping eating under control. Anybody else?
I think it's identifying myself as a person with diabetes as opposed to a diabetic. That I don't want, I want to manage my diabetes, but I don't want my diabetes to manage me.
Okay, that's good. Yeah, that is a good balance to make. You have a sweet tooth. So.
Donuts and pizza. Stuff that it's not good.
Right. Again, I think that sometimes when they talk about like not really labeling foods good or bad sometimes, because then it's psychologically that it's like bad, and then you kind of, you know, sometimes you want that bad thing more, you know, and then you're like, oh, I can't have it. But then if you eat, I know with myself, I love chocolate, you know, and if I say I can't have it, if I eat one piece, I've eaten the whole box. But if I just say, I can have chocolate, I'll just have one piece every day, it's not that bad, and that's okay. So if you say I can occasionally have a slice of pizza, and then you work around that, you know, or you're going to a party, instead of completely denying yourself, say, I know I'm going to this party, plan ahead, and say, okay, I'm going to this party, I'm going to have a little extra piece of something, but that means I'm going to cut back today in the afternoon, or tomorrow I'm going to make sure that I'm really close.
Also bring something you can eat to the party.
That's a good, yes, bring
Especially
stuff.
if they're asking for you to bring plates or something, like a church function or something. Bring something you can eat.
Right, that's a good suggestion.
I find I travel internationally for my job, so it's very difficult to control what I eat, especially when I'm in a foreign country.
Right.
Sometimes I'm in the country, I don't even speak the language.
Right.
So, and I'm there alone, and I'm like, you know, I'm in Poland, and I'm like, I don't know what anything is. So,
I think that one workaround for that we found is portion control. And you know, that this is a piece of meat.
Right.
You know,
So here's your plate. You know, you can kind of look. You can sort of sometimes in other countries tell what vegetables are and everything else.
My wife pointed out that if you get a big enough lettuce leaf, you could never have to plate with it.
Right.
I think too, when we talk about the foods and eating, watching what we're eating, it's better to have something that's, I would say, normal type of food than the sugar-free, fat-free foods, because, you know, what is in there that's gonna make it taste good to you? And so sometimes that's worse. So better to have a small piece of, you know, that cake or pie or a scoop of real ice cream, you know, every so often, and enjoy it, than having all that sugar-free, fat-free stuff. Because what they put in there is not good for you.
I'm not sure why it is, but for me, what helped me turn the corner on that was thinking of food as chemistry rather than as fuel. And you know, when I was looking at proteins versus carbs, and less concentration on sugar, but on number of proteins for my height, my weight, you know, number of carbs, from a chemistry perspective, and from the totality with magnesium and all the rest of it. I'm not a chemist, I'm not a dietitian, but I know people who are, and I have it written down, and you know, if I look at it that way, to me, that helped me turn the corner.
It's interesting. So say that you, let's work on a goal. Say you want to look at that you don't want to have so many snacks. Say you feel like you're eating too many snack foods. What could you do? Like, what would you ask yourself? What can I do instead of going back for seconds? Well, you said yours was like your portion control, right? What can I do instead of going back to seconds? What's something you think that you could do instead of getting?
Stop having them in the house.
Yeah, you could. Yeah, have certain foods not in the house, so they're not easy available. It's there. It's tempting you. It's calling your name.
Can he eat something that'll stay with him longer?
That's
Avoid the hunger?
That's a real good suggestion. Eat something that will stay with you a little bit longer, right? And some of the foods that do that, protein stays with you a little bit longer, and sometimes a little bit of fat, like olive oil. If you have a little bit of fat, that helps the food stay with you a little bit longer. Anything else that you can think of? Water, drinking water, that's a good one. Have a glass of water instead.
I know some folks that say they restrict themselves to where they eat, whether it's a snack or a main meal. A lot of folks like to, you know, raise when they're watching television or something, you know, even their dinners, I guess. But, so they don't, you know, if you only eat in your dining area.
Mindfulness.
Yeah.
Mindfulness.
And then eat slower, put your fork down.
In between, right?
You know, it kind of takes a while for the brain to stomach.
I was just going to say that,
Yeah.
right? Because your brain, you can eat. Do you ever do that? I mean, I've been really hungry sometimes. I eat, and then all of a sudden I'm like, oh, I can hardly move because it took, a half hour later because my brain finally caught up to my stomach. So if you eat slowly, that a lot of times will make you feel more satisfied too. Chemistry, exactly, chemistry. Another thing you can, get up, exercise again. If you make a plan to say, okay, right after I eat, I'm going to take a short walk. And then a lot of times after you walk, you come back, you feel good, and you don't feel like eating. Actually, exercise will actually decrease your appetite a little bit too. Okay.
Programs to the estuary
Uh-huh.
for exercise and stuff like jazzercise
Mhm.
or line dancing, those
Right.
are all free.
Right, the best areas we do a Well Right Now clinic there at the estuary too, and so estuary is really nice facility. Guilford has some too. Madison has some exercise classes depending where you live. Now, it's at the senior centers, but you don't have to be a senior actually to go there. You can take advantage of those classes. We do. The VNA does a lot of programs at the senior centers, and if you see one advertised in the paper, don't think just because I'm not quite a senior yet I can't go. You can go, even if you're not a senior.
I'm having a T-shirt made that says Genuine Certified Senior Junior Division.
And I was gonna, just from my own personal experience, I was just gonna let you know I have insulin resistance, what they call it. Has everybody heard of that, insulin resistance?
Yeah.
So I do have a little bit of insulin resistance, and for me, again, individualized. I think that's the point. For me, exercise is the key. I mean, I can not eat as much, cut down on what I'm eating. It's still my fasting's hovering around there in the high 90s or 100. If I just walk, even 15 minutes a day, my blood sugars are fine. So for me, I found that was the key. So you have to kind of find your own key, though.
Are there any places that you can walk indoors when the weather's bad? That doesn't, cost
Malls.
much?
In the mall, I was gonna say.
People at Walmart that actually walks around the outside of the perimeter of Walmart. I mean,
Oh yeah, that's
that.
a huge big store.
Walmart can help
Yeah.
you with that.
Yeah.
So, but malls,
Malls are good.
actually some malls, I know like Marin Mall, will open early so you can walk
Right.
in the mall.
Yeah,
They'll
they-
open at 7 o'clock so you can walk around in the mall.
And some of the malls have like walking groups even. Like people meet all together, and that's always fun, and have a walking group.
And that's another good point for getting an exercise program going, or even a diet going, is do it with somebody else. Have
Right.
a partner.
Yeah.
So on that day that you don't feel like getting out of bed,
Mhm.
they do, and you don't want to disappoint them.
Right. Yeah, that's a good idea too.
And exercise with 2 people, because then you're accountable to the other person. The other person, well, you didn't go exercise for 2 times in a row when we did it. So exercise with somebody else, so you're accountable to somebody else. So if you fall behind, the other person can pick you up and say, you need to go out and walk. We need to do this, or we need to do that. It also makes it funner when you're exercising with somebody else. If you're going walking with somebody else, it seems like it goes a lot quicker because
Right.
you're sitting there talking as you're walking.
Right.
And it just seems like it goes a lot quicker for that.
Although if you're talking in complete sentences, you're not walking faster.
Yes, go ahead.
Well, my situation is I'm pre-diabetic, so I just went to the doctor. My numbers I got a letter from him saying my numbers were 5 points higher. So I don't know what the numbers were, and that I was to do X, Y, and Z and then come back in 3 months. So it's serendipity that your workshop was just right after I had found out. So what I'm finding out is I work from home. I'm having to make me a priority for the first time than other people.
Right.
I'm scheduling exercise first thing in the morning, so I'm literally switching my hours of when I'm a therapist and when I see clients.
Mhm.
So this is a real focus is for me anyways, keeping my stress level down, doing a lot of deep breathing, doing more meditation, and really putting me first, which I've never done before. I canceled my whole Saturday appointments. I scheduled them for Sundays, but in order to be here. So everything is very new.
Yeah. Now, I forgot to say it at the beginning, and VNA offers it too. There's a workshop that a lot of hospitals offers. It's about a 4-week course, and they go really in detail. There's a certified diabetes educator and a dietarian there. Middlesex does it, I know VNA's going to start doing it or did it one time
We
already.
have done it in the past.
And
right?
it actually sits down and actually explains everything it is, how the food is, and everything. In those 4 weeks, they cover a lot of information, a lot more than we can cover here in the 3 hours that we're here. And I encourage anybody. I've been to 2 of them, one at Walgreens and Guilford used to offer them. I don't know if they still offer them or not. And I've been to the one at Middlesex Hospital, and they're fantastic, because they actually go and detail everything about diabetes and everything. So if you're new to diabetes or anything, try to find a workshop. Get a hold of Kathleen, get a hold of Yale New Haven Hospital or Middlesex or any hospital you go to. They probably have a workshop that they do every couple of months. I know Middlesex does it through a grant through the state of Connecticut. So that's something you guys can look into too. That you can actually sit down and really be explained what diabetes is all about and how it changes your life.
There's a pre-diabetes class workshop. Because some of the classes that they have are for folks that are actually diagnosed. It takes you from A through Z on managing your diabetes. And if you are at risk, your numbers aren't quite normal, but you're not diagnosed as yet. Pre-diabetes will be helpful to you.
I know the Y in Branford has a pre-diabetic
Yeah.
program. It's the YMCA.
But her point, I think, is so important that it deserves amplification.
Okay.
That you can't care for anybody else if you don't care for yourself.
Exactly.
And the other point John's alluded to that's related is we need to all get up every morning and read Invictus, because we are the captains of our fate. It's not my doctor's responsibility to manage my diabetes. My doctor is a tool to help me manage my diabetes. Just like my therapist is not going to straighten me out, I have to straighten me out, and that's going to give me a roadmap and a guide. And I think your point is so important that those of us who are caregivers, particularly, we worry about codependency instead of worrying about ourselves.
Right.
We need to worry about ourselves. Very good point.
And I think another good point that you brought up too is just dealing with your stress, because I know that stress does have a lot to do with diabetes, and stress stress management is actually is a habit. So what happens is sometimes you think stress management, and so if you are running here normally and you get stressed and you go up here, then you're really high. But if you can normally run down here, then when because we're all going to still have stress. I mean, stress is not going away. We live in a stressful society, stressful world. It's not going away. But if you can have a lower baseline, if you can be running on a lower baseline, when you do get stressed, it's not going to impact your health and your psychological well-being as much as you're always running here and then boom, then you're like over the top. So that's the whole point of stress management, and doing something every day to keep that stress low. Whether it's meditation, well, again, you got to find what clicks for you. There's lots of different things: meditation, relaxation exercises, deep breathing. Maybe you listen to music.
Exercise.
Exercise is great for me. Exercise is a key again. That seems to be my key for stress management too. If I'm feeling really stressed, if I just go out for a walk, take a couple deep breaths outside, I feel much better.
And people eat under stress.
And people eat under stress. There's another good point. Just what we don't want to do when we're trying to control our eating. So that makes a big difference too.
There's been a number of studies comparing different psychotropic medications for anxiety and stress and other disorders of that nature with exercise. And study after study has shown exercise to be more effective for reducing anxiety, reducing stress,
and depression
than the medication. Amazing.
Right. They did a big study on moderate depression, not severe, but moderate depression and mild depression, and exercise, and found that people that walked a half an hour a day, actually their depression was controlled without medication if they did exercise. So there's a lot of things that go on in your body while you're exercising that's really good for you. I'll just throw out one CD that I really like, Dr. Weil. I don't know if any of you have ever heard of him. He has a couple good relaxation music, and there's a couple that will take you through a whole hour if you listen to on headphones, and they're really good, I find it. And I had other people use them. I'm also a massage therapist, and I've used that one when people love it when I play that. They're like, I can't believe how more, they give me all the credit, but really I think half of it is that tape too, because it just gets them in a nice relaxed state. So it's Dr. Weil, and you can look him up on the internet, and you can look up his, he has, you can buy his CDs.
Okay.
W-E-I-L. It'll be drwild.com for his website.
What is it?
W-E-I-L. Okay, and then I guess another question, just one more question I have for you, because in the VNA we're always developing and looking at developing new programs. Sometimes we do get grant funding, and it comes and goes, grant funding. So what programs, and we're really looking at diabetes. Again, we did, when we taught the classes, we had a grant. That grant's no longer available because grant monies just end. So we are looking to do some programs for diabetes. And so I just wanted to know what kind of program would be the most helpful, do you think, for your diabetes? What kind of programs would help you the most?
I'm just curious, at your office, do you have like a facility where you can do cooking?
No, we don't, but we actually talked to somebody about that.
Okay, so I was thinking of cooking, that, you know.
Cooking
Cooking
class.
is always the worst thing,
Okay.
so showing folks how to cook,
Okay.
you know, like changes that makes the food still tasty and healthy.
Mm-hmm.
And then doing, you know, letting them have a little sample
Samples,
taste of
right,
it.
sample
That
tasting.
might be good.
Yeah.
That's always what I hear, the food, you know.
Right, and that is, it is
Yeah.
difficult. Yeah, that is the hard part. Okay.
I think a program on portion control.
Like
The
portion.
You know, what is one portion of
Yeah.
grapes? What is one portion of blueberries? What is
Right.
one portion of meat?
And then actually bring, you know, that would be good, you know, actually talking about bringing bringing the samples in of the food and say, okay, here it is, you know, we have this, but this doesn't exactly look like.
You know,
Well, and related to that, one diet trick, I guess, is to use a smaller plate.
yeah.
Right.
And you feel satisfied having eaten everything on your plate.
Right.
But you know, one portion of meat for me is my palm, as opposed to one portion of meat for her, which is her palm. So it's all right to have props, but to learn tricks on how to measure 1 cup of something if you don't have a measure.
Picture cup, right.
Or this type.
And what it looks like, right.
Decker card is supposed to be like
Yeah.
3 ounces, so if we can visualize that, yeah, that would be helpful. Let's
The
think
plate-
too,
the
grocery
plate is a
food
good
store.
Plate is a good one, because that's a 12-inch plate.
Yeah.
Make that a 9-inch plate.
Yeah, and then we'll start, yeah.
Kathleen, what about a grocery food store?
Oh, that's
If
good.
you have a local store that,
Yeah.
you know, because people,
Yeah.
they can go in, they can stop and see, they can maybe ask questions of the dietitian there.
Yeah.
This is what I normally buy, what's better.
Right.
And then the stores like it because sometimes folks will then, you know, buy something before they leave.
Right.
I
But
think
it's kinda
Big
helpful.
Y would partner with VNA on that, because they have a nutritional program
Yeah.
and
Right,
those
and it-
nutritional values.
They're very good.
One thing most of them will tell you, stay to the outside perimeter of the
Yeah.
store. Don't go up and down the aisles, 'cause
Right.
that's where all the poison is.
Yeah. For sure.
I think also, you know, for me, because I'm now just reading labels of everything, and there's so many things that are hidden or misleading. So to have a list of brands or products that would be recommended, so a person could just put those on the list and not have to worry about
Yeah.
reading every label and
It gets, yeah, well, it takes time consuming, right?
and you need a magnifying glass.
Some of these questions too can also be addressed to the dietitian. She is coming in pretty soon. She's going to do a transportation. She's going to show you everything. Hopefully she'll bring plates and stuff like that and show you stuff. She should be here any minute, and she's going to go through that stuff too. So you guys can ask her about food and how much you should be eating and stuff like that.
Okay, does anybody else have any questions before I wrap up?
I just want to add one more thing is, I've done this anyway for a long time, is if you eat while you're watching TV, then you're watching TV and you're just eating and you're not tasting the food. And if you're eating and you're reading or you're doing work. So I think that eating should be a very pleasurable thing, where you literally set up an environment that, you know, it's a tablecloth or nice dishes, or where it's going to be a treat, and you just sit and you listen to music and really taste your food and enjoy it. But the minute you put it with another activity, you're not even thinking about what you're eating.
She brought up a good point
Yeah.
too, and then I'm sure the dietitian will talk about it too, is your environment where you're eating from. Don't sit in front of the TV to eat. Don't be doing anything else. You should be sitting down to eat and nothing else around you, nothing else distract you. Because you're concentrating on the TV show, you're concentrating on your book, and you're not realizing you're full already. So it's, yeah, you keep on eating more and more. So she brought up a very good point with that.
Or even tasting the food. People don't even taste
Yeah,
the
taste the
food.
food, yeah.
Yeah, know, we've all probably experienced that where you just eat so fast and you're like, where'd it go? It's in my stomach. I didn't know how it got there. So I think that is a very good point. Just being really conscious. And she said also eating a special event.
Yeah.
You know, get out like your tablecloth and your placemats and really think, make it something special. So it's more satisfying that way, I think. That was a good point. Thanks.
Any other questions for Kathleen?
I have a short little stress story.
Go ahead.
Many, many years ago, in my errant misspent youth, I was a police officer, and we worked a 4-10 plan, where we worked 4 10-hour days. So one day you had an overlap of people, so that was the day we trained. And on that particular Friday, we come into the classroom, and here's a civilian down in the front, and he's writing stress reduction up on the board. Well, this old Bumper Morgan buddy of mine comes in, sits down, looks up, sees that on the board, stands up, picks up his baton, and starts walking out the door. When this William makes the mistake of challenging him and said, you might want to stay for this, sir. You might really get some benefit out of this. And he turns around, he looks at him, and he says, son, I don't have stress. I give stress. To finish the story, 2 years later, he had a heart attack and was retired. So maybe could have benefited from stress reduction.
I'll tell you a little story too about stress. I heard that we all have like push button phones now, right? So you push button the phone, you do it really fast. And I heard this on the news, and this guy was in Europe, someplace in Europe, and he had to do a dial phone. And he's watching the dials go back, and he's like getting more and more and more anxious because he had to call this person really fast, and he was like just going crazy. And he was by the time the person got on the phone, he was like beside himself. But then afterwards, he said to himself, how long did that really take to dial that phone? And it was only like five more seconds or 3 more seconds to use the dial phone than to push the number in. And so, stress is about your perspective sometimes too. So you have to look at that.
And somebody was talking about a kitchen thing, doing a cook thing. I am looking at a place to try to do a cooking thing. We can't do it here. I can do it at the rec center, but it's going to cost me about $75 an hour to be using their kitchen. So I am trying to find a spot so we can do a cooking place, and I already have a chef that's willing to come in and cook low carbs. Matter of fact, he works with one of the top cook people from that's on D-Life. You watch D-Life at all? He's the cook. I forgot what his name is.
Michelle Michon?
Yes. My parents know of him and know a chef that works with him.
He and his wife came to the expo a couple of years back when we were doing it, and they spoke about diabetes and the kids, because they have 3 children with it. And plus he's cooked 2 different times there. It's really good.
D-Life used to be on TV on Sunday nights at 7 o'clock, but they're not on anymore. But they're still doing shows on the internet, and it's dlife.org, I believe. It's dlife.org, I believe. And you still can see segments. Jim Turner is another one. Johnson. Nicole Johnson was a co-host there on that show before, and Mother Love was too. So it's a very, 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 very nice one. And Jim Turner does pieces that just turns the diabetes into laughter. You're sitting there, you're learning stuff, and you're laughing at the same time. I just saw one yesterday that he was doing testing in public and how embarrassing it is. And it was back in the olden days. He brings out this big, huge thing. He's throwing the blood in, and his girlfriend passes out and everything. He does it really good. But the chef that she's talking about, his kid got diabetes, and he switched his whole cooking experience over to doing this healthy cooking and everything because of her kid and everything. You're all set?
Yeah.
Okay. The other thing I want to talk about, and I wanted her to talk a little bit. How many people get depressed? Diabetes seems like it's depressed more because your sugar number goes up and down. If you ever notice with your sugar numbers, if it's a roller coaster day with your numbers, you get really mentally. So you need to maybe even think about putting a psychiatrist on if you keep on being the moody. My wife calls it moody and crankiness. That's what my wife calls it. He's being moody again or cranky. And she knows that when I'm getting that way, my sugar's going way down or way up. And it's a roller coaster. It's called diabetes roller coaster. And it's very important to also have a foot doctor on your list of people to see, and a dentist on the people you should be seeing every week, every month, every year. I mean, and also eye doctor, because you will lose your eyesight if you don't watch it. I have a leaker behind my left one.
Let me suggest another one to put on your team. Harder to find. You may have never heard of them. It's called a podorthist. And a podiatrist is an expert in feet. A podorthist is an expert in shoes.
Yep.
And one of the things that came from my diabetes is I would buy shoes and they'd be uncomfortable.
Yep.
But I couldn't figure out why, because I was an 8.5 in high school, and why wouldn't I be an 8.5? And they had that funny little machine there in the shoe store. I didn't know what that was for. It's called a Brannick, by the way. But I never used it. Well, my wife and I got into a business with having a podorthist footwear store, and we became accredited, national accredited podorthist, certified podorthist. And you want to find a certified podorthist. There's a few around. Yeah, I've discovered that the reason my shoes are uncomfortable is I have size 10 feet. And so when last time you bought a pair of shoes, did you actually measure the size of your foot? And did you measure it seated? And if you did, measure it standing, and you'll find that your foot is probably a size and a half larger than the measurement you got when you were seated. And for ladies, look at the shape of your foot and look at the shape of your shoe. If they don't match, that's the FBI giving you a clue.
Yep.
And there's a reason, by putting that podorthist on your team, he can help you deal with the bunion issues, but particularly for diabetes, with that lack of sensation, or the development of a lack of sensation in your feet. Now, my feet don't hurt anymore. So I have to look at, I have to take the lining out of my shoe and stand on that lining and to see where my foot is compared to that lining. And if it's hanging over the edge, that shoe is not wide enough or long enough, or the right shape or the right height.
Also a mirror to look at the bottom of your foot, because people who can't feel anymore may have an ulcer under there.
Right. You need to put your wife's makeup mirror. Go to Walmart, spend $5, get a second one, and put it by the side of your bed. Because you need to look at the bottom of your feet with a mirror every single day. And if you don't, and you lose your foot, you won't have a leg to stand on.
You should be checking actually your whole leg and your foot and everything, at least on a weekly basis, until you get what they call a neuropathic. No, thank you. And it's the losing of your nerves in your legs. They say I have in my right leg. I have veins popping out. I had invertebral veins pulled. I had two stripped out when I was 30. My 30th birthday present was 2 veins being stripped out of my right leg already. So, you know, you just need to look at your feet, because you'll never know if you're getting a blister or not, and that can easily get infected, and you can easily get it really bad where you're going to have your foot cut off, your leg cut off. So,
I've got many horror stories.
Yes.
So you know. Okay.
But he brings up a good point. There are places out there that you should go to get a good, even if you're not diabetic, you should go and get a good pair of shoes.
And a good fitting.
And good fitting. And I know, like, we have New Balance, which is good, which is up in Clinton or Westbrook. It's one of those factory outlets. You're going to have to spend $150, but it's going to be a good pair of shoes, especially if you're going to be on your feet all day. And even look into, if you're starting to have problems with your legs and your feet, look into sport stockings. Sport stockings helps me 100% when I'm on my feet. Changes my life when I'm on my feet. I don't have any pain at the end of the day and everything. I wear sport stockings when I'm at work.
And your podorthist can tell you what degree of compression is appropriate.
Yep.
And there is a podorthist locally, Mountain Peddlers, up on Route 80 here. He's a CPAD, and then of course in New Haven, Yale Surgical has a number of certified podorthists. There used to be a store in Orange called Foot Solutions that was specialized in that, but we went broke because you guys would come in for one fitting and then go buy your next pair online.
So, you know, there's so much things to look out for when you're diabetic and everything, and you need to look at your whole body, because a lot of things can happen with your whole body and everything. So and she brought up a good point too that I didn't bring up before. It's know your numbers, know your A1C. I asked somebody called, I don't know who it was in this room, but they did not know their A1C. And you need to know your A1C. You really do. You need to know and it's what it is. It's a test for your last 3 months of what your sugar was, and on average for the last 3 months. And I'm envy because hers was 5.3 the last time she got hers checked. And I'm like, I almost got up off the table and I almost slapped her.
Yeah, we understand, we let
I'm
her in the
like,
room.
I'm like, that's my dream numbers, is those numbers. Mine last time was 6.7. But I'm very disappointed with it. I'm very disappointed with it. I want to be under 6. Because the closer range you have for your sugar, the less complications you'll have. Yep. And she brought up another good point. You can go on the internet and you're going to see different numbers of normal ranges because different people put up different. American Diabetes Association has one number, and then this place has another number. But she gave good numbers of your average what you should be during the day and everything, before meals and everything.
The number you should work out with your doctor.
Right.
Everybody's different, and
yeah.
your diabetes is different. You set the number with your physician.
She also brings up a good thing. It's just like diabetes, I look at it just like cancer and stuff like that. You can't take 1 and compare it to 2. You can't take 2 and compare it to 4. Okay, because each case is different, each body's different, each diabetes is different, and how it's attacking our body is different. How it's reacting to our body is different. Okay, so each one of us is different, and we all have our own obstacles that we have to go over and run over. I have problems with my liver. Probably nobody else in here has started having liver problems caused by diabetes and everything. So each case is different, just like diabetes. Each case is different. Hey, we're going to break for a couple minutes, like for 15 minutes, and I'm going to wait. The American Diabetes Association is going to come on with her. Nutritionist is going to come on after her. Help yourself to more coffee, water, tea, bathroom. We can get back about another 15 more minutes.